Ooh, okay. You see, for the person who's using insulin to manage type 2 diabetes, there's a smarter way. Several people with type 2 diabetes find themselves having to inject themselves daily with insulin. They hate the pain and discomfort that comes from the daily pricks, but they don't know any other way out of this condition. What if I told you that insulin is actually causing more harm than good? My name is Dr. Etuket, and I run a health coaching program called Vigorized. Vigorized is a doctor-led health system that helps high-level professionals battling with type 2 diabetes to take control of their blood sugar levels, boost their physical energy, and attain peak mental sharpness without having to rely on medication. If you're the person who finds themselves depending on insulin daily, this video is for you. The first thing we need to understand is what is the root cause of type 2 diabetes. It's not genetic and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, that plays a very minimal role. The most important thing with type 2 diabetes is eating the wrong type of food. The wrong type of food is going to cause your pancreas to start producing lots of insulin. When insulin remains chronically elevated, so months, years on, you're going to start storing fat. Initially, you start storing this fat under your skin. But if you continue eating the wrong types of food, lots of carbohydrate, particularly processed carbohydrates, you are going to start storing fat around your intestines, what is called visceral fat. But also you can start storing it in organs where it shouldn't be, what is called ectopic fat. And a very common example of ectopic fat is something called fatty liver. This is a condition where somebody accumulates excess amounts of fat within their liver. So visceral fat and ectopic fat together are going to cause insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a condition where your cells do not respond well to insulin. Ideally, your cells, most importantly your muscle cells, should respond to insulin and then take up sugar. And taking up blood sugar is going to cause your blood sugar levels to drop. Hence the function of insulin, which most people know that insulin helps to regulate blood sugar levels. That's how it does that. Insulin resistance, think of it just as a tree, say a mango tree. A mango tree has mango fruit, but it has fruits of different sizes. So small fruits, medium sized, and then large fruits. The large fruit would most likely be things like elevated levels of blood sugar, so type 2 diabetes. Most people fear type 2 diabetes because of the complications and the symptoms which come with it. Certain other fruit, like medium-sized fruit, would be things like high blood pressure. And then you could also have maybe what I would say smaller fruit, not because they are less harmful, but in my experience working with people don't pay much attention to these compared to type 2 diabetes. So you can also have elevated levels of triglycerides. Triglycerides are fat molecules which are present in the blood. You can have other smaller fruit, which is reduced levels of HDL cholesterol. Elevated levels of triglycerides and reduced levels of HDL cholesterol together make up a condition called dyslipidemia. And I must mention one common condition, chronic kidney disease. The two most common causes of chronic kidney disease, which results in the dialysis and kidney transplant, it's actually type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. Two conditions which are caused by the insulin resistance. As you can see, the root cause of all of this was chronically elevated levels of insulin. Yet, if you ask your GP or ask your doctor, if you go and check on Google, just type in and ask, what's the cause of type 2 diabetes? You are most likely going to be told insulin resistance. And I mean, this is something which was pushed even when we were at medical school. I remember, very common question, what's the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes? The answer would be type 2 diabetes is caused by insulin resistance, and then type 1 diabetes is caused by having low levels of insulin, or even close to absent levels of insulin. But insulin resistance did not just appear out of the blue. There was something which caused it, which, as we've seen here, wrong type of food causing you to spike your insulin levels. Now, when somebody has had type 2 diabetes for months, years, they have been on oral medication. Maybe they even first tried lifestyle intervention. They tried exercise, they tried some kind of diet, they have tried all sorts of things. They have tried supplements, that's not working, they now start on medication. 1 pill, 2 pills, 3 pills, up to a point where their blood sugar levels are not responding. And then the doctor says, you know what, we need to start you on insulin. It's a common thing. Insulin normally is the last line of defense for somebody who is failing to take control of their blood sugar levels. At least what is in the medical practice. And this is global, it's not even just Uganda. So somebody starts injecting themselves with insulin. Will their blood sugar levels respond? Initially, most likely they will. Insulin is actually very potent at lowering blood sugar levels, especially initially. Actually, one very common side effect of injecting oneself with insulin is hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar levels. And this can actually be life-threatening, actually fatal in some cases. There's a lady who I spoke with one time who said she was injecting herself with insulin. That's what she was taking for medication. And she said that she had collapsed on several occasions. One particular occasion, she was walking in the park. Thank God she was with her sister. Imagine if she was walking in the park alone. So injecting oneself with insulin may work initially, but the problem is it's causing you to store fat. Actually, another side effect of injecting oneself with insulin is weight gain. That's something which is well known. Many people who are injecting themselves with insulin gain weight unwantedly. And that weight is driving the disease process more and more. So one may ask, okay, then why do doctors tell us to inject ourselves with insulin when we have uncontrolled blood sugar levels in type 2 diabetes? Well, I can use this analogy to explain it. Think of a pipe which is clogged by something. You can overcome that blockage by either removing what's clogging the pipe, or you can exert more pressure. You can equate injecting yourself with more and more insulin to increasing the water pressure through the pipe to overcome the blockage, which is insulin resistance. You know, injecting oneself with insulin to overcome the insulin resistance, instead of dealing with the root cause, which we've identified as eating the wrong type of food, reminds me of this movie, Johnny English, a special agent working with the British intelligence. There's this scene where he's chasing a bad guy who is much younger and fitter than him. This bad guy is jumping over obstacles, jumping over fences, jumping over walls, doing all sorts of fancy stuff, which of course John English cannot do given his age. In the moment, he remembers what his mentor told him.
You're not young, but with age comes wisdom.
And Johnny English did just that. Instead of trying to do all those fancy things like jumping over obstacles and that, which he couldn't do anyway, he chose to use wisdom and he actually ended up catching the bad guy. Hear me out for a moment. Is it ridiculous to say that the more efficient way to deal with this situation is to remove what is causing the blockage as opposed to increasing the pressure through the pipe? In fact, let's bring it closer to the subject of today. Is it ridiculous to say that the more efficient and sustainable way to overcome insulin resistance is to deal with the root cause of the insulin resistance instead of pumping oneself with more and more insulin to overcome the resistance? It's not. Injecting yourself with more and more insulin is just worsening the problem as you do it. I must also say that when your blood glucose levels become elevated due to your cells being resistant to insulin, those elevated blood sugar levels are going to stimulate your pancreas to produce more insulin in an attempt to overcome the resistance. This further worsens the process. So you can see that insulin results in a cascade of problems which just keeps going on and on and on, a vicious cycle. Therefore, you need to exercise control and deal with the root cause, which is the wrong type of food. And that's why, depending on insulin and these other medications to deal with type 2 diabetes, do not work sustainably because they don't address the root cause of the issue, which is eating the wrong type of food. And to be honest, if you think about it, the only way you're going to address the issue of eating the wrong type of food is something which is far beyond medication. It's psychological. It deals with learning. It deals with behavior. Because you need to learn, first of all, what is the right type of food. And then you need to begin to learn how to exercise self-control. And this is where coaching comes in. Working with a specialist to learn the right kinds of behavior and then get the support and accountability you need to incorporate them into your day-to-day life so that you have a sustainable solution to your high blood sugar and weight gain. Insulin doesn't sustainably solve the issue of type 2 diabetes. In fact, it worsens it. For the person with type 2 diabetes who would like to explore the possibility of taking control of their blood sugar and energy without having to depend on insulin, I'd like to invite you to click the link in the topmost comment that I've pinned right here below, which will take you to a page where you can fill in a brief application. I'll have a look at your responses, and by doing so, I'll know if you are a good fit for us to work together to help you solve your problem once and for all. Otherwise, I hope you found value in this video. Once again, my name is Dr. Andrew Etuket. Speak soon.